I'm Breeze Newell, and you're watching The B.O.S. Company Presents. How I Learned to Sell, the 7 Steps to Overcome Objections. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. No matter what time of day this video finds you, I hope it finds you well. Breeze here with The B.O.S. Company. We provide customized consulting for businesses and individuals who have the willingness to believe, the desire to grow, and the courage to make it all happen. Our goal is to foster a habitual vision of greatness in all that we encounter, and we're here to serve. It's morning time for me. I have my morning coffee, which means I'm ready to talk to you about how I learned to sell, the 7 steps to overcome objections. Here we go. All right, before we even start talking about how to overcome an objection, let's talk about what an objection even is. So there's inquiries, there's concerns, and there's objections when you're talking to customers in a sales environment. An inquiry is just someone asking about something. They're interested, right? They say, how much does this cost? A concern is they're just a little bit worried about the information you've given them or what they've seen. They might say, ooh, that seems a little steep. And an objection is a no. An objection is we're not moving forward in the sale. It's this costs too much. I can't afford this. That's an objection. Now, it is important to actually distinguish between these 3 things. What you don't want to do is you don't want to treat inquiries like objections. Concerns and objections are related, and you can use these 7 steps, this process I'm about to teach you, to address concerns or objections. But when someone's just inquiring, they really just are interested. They want more information, right? So don't just immediately assume because someone's asking a question about something that they're objecting to it or that they're concerned about it. They might just need more information so they can make a decision. So let me ask you a question. Do you think objections are good or bad for your sale? Now, most salespeople, what they do is, if they're a novice or they're a little bit inexperienced or they're untrained, is they try and avoid objections. You know, they might even sense an objection coming. They might think the customer is kind of teetering on the point of saying no, and the salesperson might even suspect they know why the customer is going to say no, but they spend most of the sales process kind of trying to bypass it, trying to avoid it, trying to make sure that the objection doesn't rear its ugly head. And that's a huge mistake because objections are actually good for your sale. If someone raises a concern, if someone's objecting to something, it means A, that you've actually gone through the process and asked them to make a decision and buy, which you must do. You must polarize your customer to a yes or a no to make a transaction. And B, it means that they're giving you information. They're kind of extending an olive branch to you that you can then use to try and help them get out of their own way to overcome their objections so they can actually move forward with the sale and make a decision. So the first key here is don't be a novice. Don't act like those untrained salespeople that try and avoid objections. You actually want to flush out objections as quickly as possible for a couple of reasons. A, you want the information. You want to know why someone's going to tell you no. B, the sooner in the process you can actually figure out why they're going to tell you no or if they're going to tell you no, you have more time in the process now to help overcome those objections. It's better that it comes out early so you can spend the rest of the process overcoming the objection and understanding the customer and empathizing so you can actually help them, rather than at the very end when you avoid objections the whole time, you know it's coming, and then you're afraid to ask, and then you ask at the very end, and now you have 30 seconds or less to overcome it. That's a recipe for failure. As a salesperson, think of yourself as a firefighter. And what you want to do is you want to go fight fires. If objections are fires, you want to go fight fires. You're not running from fires. You're not trying to avoid them, right? And just like a firefighter, you'd much rather deal with like an itty bitty little campfire or just a little tiny fire that was just sparked, because it's way easier to put out, and that's your objection when it's early, than it is a raging inferno that's already out of control and you only have 30 seconds to put it out. So now let's actually talk about overcoming objections. There are many, many, many ways to do this. There's so many processes. If you just Google real quick, how do you overcome sales objections? You're going to get so many tips, so many tricks that it's going to be maybe challenging to even separate them out and figure out which one's best for you. This is the one that I personally learned first. I've learned many more since that are very similar. If you find a similar process to this, that's fine. Actually, even just doing research for this video, because I like to give people credit that have come up with techniques. I actually couldn't even find the actual origin of where this technique comes from, but it's something I learned about 15 years ago, and it served me well ever since. So these are the 7 steps to overcome objections. All right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to list these off real quick, and then we're going to go through these one by one. So the 7 steps to overcome objections is to hear it out, feed it back, question with empathy, isolate and circle the wagons, answer it, confirm the answer, and shift gears. So don't worry, let's go through these one by one. So the first one is to hear it out. This is, at least on paper, certainly the easiest step because all you have to do is listen. So you're literally just hearing out the customer. You're listening to what they're telling you. So that you can understand. So you're not deaf hearing the customer, you're not paying attention to something else, you're not off somewhere daydreaming, right? You're just actively listening to the customer. Now, when we say hear it out, there are multiple levels of listening, right? There's what the customer is literally saying, right? There's what they're kind of trying to say, and then there's what they really mean. So we want to be empathetic listeners here, and we want to get to what they really mean. That's hearing it out. So once you've heard the customer, you need to move on to step 2, which is to feed it back. So when we say feed it back, what we mean is you're going to restate to the customer what they just said. If you can restate it right back to them verbatim, literally, that's fine. There's no reason why you can't do that. But what you need to do is you need to make sure that they understand that you heard them. That's the most important thing. So if someone says, gosh, Breeze, it just costs too much. The objection is cost, and when I feed it back, I could feed their words back. Literally, I could say, it just costs too much, right? Or I could say, gosh, it sounds like you're just a little bit concerned about the cost. So you can phrase this really any way you want, but really what you're looking for here is what Chris Voss, who we've talked about in the past, he was a hostage negotiator. He wrote a book called Never Split the Difference. You're looking for something called forced empathy. What you really want here, music to your ears, when you feed it back, is the customer saying, that's right. That would be music to your ears. It's not always going to happen that way. Sometimes they just restate it back to you. So they say, gosh, Breeze, it just costs too much. And I would say, oh, it costs too much? And they'd say, yeah, it costs too much. When you feed back the customer's objection to them, though, it accomplishes a couple of things. One is oftentimes it forces them to elaborate. In sales, this is also called a 0 step when you just feed it back. So if someone says it costs too much and I say, oh, it sounds like it costs too much, they might elaborate just because I fed their objection back to them. They might say, oh yeah, I'm a little bit worried about these monthly payments. So now we have more of a specific objection to overcome in monthly payments, not just cost. Another reason why you want to feed it back to the customer is because they hear their own objection coming out of someone else's mouth. And it doesn't just create empathy. Sometimes when they hear it coming out of someone else's mouth, they start to realize whether or not that's a legitimate objection. They're trying to work their way through this. You're trying to help them get out of their own way. And when they hear it coming out of someone else's mouth, rather than just their own, they get to analyze it a little bit more. They get to think about it a little bit more. They get to realize whether this is a legitimate objection or not, or whether they're just maybe a little bit scared and they need some reassurance. All right, we've heard it out, we fed it back. Now on to step 3, that's question with empathy. So question with empathy means that you need to empathize with your customer, right? So when you question with empathy, what you do is you relate, you find common ground, because you don't want them feeling like they're isolated. You don't want them feeling like they're weird for having this objection, so you need to put them at ease. So what you say is, it sounds like it just costs too much. They say, yeah, I'm just a little bit concerned about spending money. You say, oh, I totally appreciate that. That makes lots of sense. You know, whenever I'm shopping, it's important for me that I have things be affordable too. So that's questioning with empathy. The questioning part doesn't mean that you literally need to ask a question. You could. Mainly, though, it's just about having kind of that deflating tone where you're still kind of questioning the objection and whether it's legitimate with the way that you're handling it, but you're relating to the customer and you're breaking their walls down so they're not so defensive. You want them to open up to you. Because the only way you can really overcome an objection was with the customer's help. You can't just wave a magic wand and then have some formula where you can just trick somebody into doing something you want. That's not what you want anyway. That's malicious, right? We're trying to create win-win scenarios here where you just help your customer. All right, on to step 4. This is isolate and circle the wagon. So let's describe what this means. First thing is isolate. So what you want to do is you want to say, it sounds like it's just a question of cost then. That's isolating, right? The circle the wagons part is circling back around and saying, other than cost, is there anything else stopping you from wrapping things up right now? So if I ran these 4 steps together and we're addressing cost. That's our objection. I'd hear it out. Customer would say it costs too much. I'd feed it back. I'd say, oh, it sounds like you're still concerned about the cost. They say yes. I'd say, great. I totally appreciate that. It's important for things to be affordable for me too. Let me ask you a question. It sounds like it's just cost. Other than cost, is there anything else stopping you from wrapping things up right now? So that is how you're going to work through the first 4 steps here, and you're going to isolate the objection and circle the wagons. Now, you just want to remember that if your objections cost in different industries, depending on what you're selling, it's going to change a little bit how you circle the wagons, because you're going to probably need to isolate it down to more than just the out the door cost, because there might be like a monthly payment, there might be some interest, there might be something that when you circle the wagons, you're going to need to isolate it down even more. The more specific you can isolate an objection, the better, because then you know what to actually overcome, and if you overcome it, you're going to be in good shape. All right, so we've ran through the first 4 steps. We hear it out, we feed it back, we question with empathy, we isolate and circle the wagons. Now, we need to actually go into the 5th step. This is where you actually answer the objection. So this is where you actually do the work to overcome the objection, right? So depending on your objection, you're going to use different techniques here. If it's cost and you have a specific industry where you have the ability to defer payments or post-date payments or break payments into chunks, or you're going to break things down to the ridiculous, or you're going to talk about the long-term savings of someone making a wise investment now and what they actually want, then you can overcome cost that way. Of course, if it's spousal objection, if it's a use objection, if it's a time objection, if it's a convenience or comfort objection, if it's an inventory objection, there's so many different things want to do. If they want to shop around, you're going to have different methods when you're actually on this 5th step to answer the objection. But this is where you actually use your sales knowledge and what you have at your disposal, the tools you have at your disposal to overcome objections. All right, so let's hear this in action. Just for the continuity of our role play, we'll just assume that it's a generic overall cost objection out the door, and I'm going to run through these 5 steps, and then we'll stop. So they say it costs too much. And I say, oh, it just costs too much? And they say, yeah, I'm just a little bit concerned about the expense. And I say, no worries. I totally understand. I can empathize with that. I like things to be affordable for me too whenever I'm shopping around. Sounds like it just costs too much. Other than the cost out the door, is there anything else stopping you from wrapping things up and doing business right now? And they say, no, Breeze, that's it. I say, oh, I totally get it. I know this might sound strange. You were talking earlier about how long you've been thinking about this and how important this is to you. The fact that it costs just a little bit more than you were wanting to spend is one of the reasons why you should do it. You're actually going to keep this product longer just because it's actually what you want, rather than settling for less for something that just fits a specific budget number. So the fact that it costs too much is actually one of the reasons why you should do it. So that would be me overcoming costs in just a very, very non-specific general way. Of course, the more specific the product you're selling, you're going to have multiple ways to overcome cost right here. And that's where you'd insert it. So let's move on now to the 6th step, which is to confirm the answer. So it's not enough just to overcome an objection. You need to actually confirm with the customer that the objection has been overcome. So you can't just assume that your solution matches the customer. You need to actually now circle back, and you need to confirm with the customer that this makes sense and that they're on board and that this is okay. So with our cost example, I would just pick up where I left off, and I would say, that makes sense, doesn't it, Mr. Customer? Let's just put the shopping behind you. It's important when you do this that the customer agrees that you've overcome their objection. So that's the whole point of the 6th step when you're confirming the answer. You're confirming that you and the customer are on the same page, and that way you don't get to the point where you're actually signing on the line that is dotted and they get cold feet and they back out. You want to have everything solidified right here and confirmation that the customer agrees. All right, last but not least, the 7th step, this is shift gears. So all you're doing when you shift gears is you're moving on with the sale, because you've already heard them out, you've fed their concern or their objection back to them, you've questioned it with empathy, you've isolated it and circled the wagons so you know that you're on a specific objection, right? You've answered it, you've confirmed the answer, so you've confirmed that it works. Now it's time to shift gears. So all shift gears means is we're going to move to the next step. We're going to move on. You can use lots and lots of different terminology to shift gears here onto another topic and move forward in the sale. By the way is a really easy way to do this. You could say, oh, by the way, I didn't even ask you, are you going to be taking this home today, or are we going to be picking it up next week? Or you could say, let's do this. That'll help you move on and shift gears. Hey, let's do this. Now that we've actually figured this part of the process out and you know how you're taking it home, we also need to figure out how we're going to gift wrap it. So follow me, I'm going to show you something. So you need to shift gears now and not stay in objection land because you've actually already confirmed that you've overcome the objection. And that way we can move on with our sale. So we hear it out, feed it back, question with empathy, isolate and circle the wagons, answer it, confirm the answer, and then we shift gears. So we move on. So those are the 7 steps to overcome an objection. Let's actually role play this just for continuity's sake here so you can see it all one piece one more time here. And we've done costs, so let's do something else. Let's do like a generic spousal objection since people have a lot of problems overcoming spouse. So the customer says, gosh, I think I just need to talk to my wife. And I say, oh, you just need to talk to your wife? And they say, yeah, Breeze, it's pretty important I talk to her first. Say, hey, I totally get it. I'm married too. I don't want to get you in trouble. It's the last thing I want. I know you need to talk to your wife. Let me ask you, other than talking to your wife, is there anything else stopping you from getting started right now? And they say, no. And you say, great. No, I totally get it. Let me ask you a question, Mr. Customer. Let's say that the roles were reversed here and you were at home and your wife actually came to you. And she said, hey, I really, really want this product or service. It's super important to me. You'd be supportive of her, wouldn't you? Customer says, yeah, definitely. And then I would say, don't you think she's going to treat you the same way and say the same thing to you? Oh, I guess so. So let's do this. I don't want to get you in trouble at home, like I said. That's why we actually have a 3-day buyer's remorse policy on this product or service. But it's much better that you go home and show your wife how serious you are about this rather than going and asking her. I mean, that way she knows that she can support you and feel comfortable doing that, just like you would her. So let's do this. I actually need to take you over to the business office so we can get this solidified. So follow me and I can get you a cup of coffee or maybe something cold to drink while we do this too. So those would be the 7 steps in action. Hear it out, feed it back, question with empathy, isolate and circle the wagons, answer it, confirm the answer, shift gears. There's a reason I'm saying this so much. It's because repetition equals retention. So that's how you're actually going to get good at this, is you're going to need to repeat it over and over, right? And it's not enough just to memorize these steps. You need to actually repeat over and over how to do this. And then consistency over time equals results. So don't beat yourself up if you're not great at this at the beginning, or if you seem kind of robotic with your customer, or you're trying this and it's not working. There's no perfect way to overcome objections. There's no perfect system. Remember that. This is just designed to give you the best batting average. Not going to work every time. Anybody that tells you they have a perfect system, they're probably fibbing you. Remember, with the B.O.S. company, we don't just help with sales. We also help with a variety of things. We focus on skills and structure. And if you want to work with us, then there's going to be information in the show notes at the end of this video how to do that. We always work with folks for free first before we do anything, especially the first meeting. We're never going to ask for your money. Really, I just want to make sure that we're actually a good match, if it makes sense. But, we focus on leadership, management, culture, KPIs, goal setting, hiring and firing, workflow efficiency, sales, like we just went over, of course, customer service, all those things. And then we also want to structure your business into a working algorithm where you have predictable outcomes and people are put in the best position to win. That is the key. So hit me up. My name's Breeze with the B.O.S. company. That way I can help you work on your business, not just in your business, and I can help you transform your business and change your life. Till next time, cheers.